Hi, everyone. Welcome to Reagan Radio, the place for language people, language folk, language enthusiasts. And today I'm chatting with Cherry, and I'm going to be asking her some difficult questions for Chinese people. Now, if you know what we do in Reagan Radio, usually we do language stuff, so we speak maybe 2 languages at the same time or 3 languages. Cherry's going to be using mostly Chinese Mandarin, and I'm going to be using mostly English, and we might also use Chinglish to mix things up. We just happen to be language teachers. That's what we do. That's what we're interested in. And so the sort of focus and style of these videos is like we want to talk about language stuff, cultural stuff, but also relevant stuff that's happening, and provide a new, different kind of language resource for people instead of just reading textbooks all day, which can be so boring. So without any further ado, let's first of all, how are you, Cherry? How you doing?
还行，最近第二个学期最后一个星期很慢，但是还是很累很慢，但是还是要坚持。最后
Yep.
一个星期，
So me and Cherry, both of us, we only have 1 week left, and then we are on holiday. We're freedom. Now, so we're trying not to go crazy at the moment, and I'm surprised that we're even making a video because I think both of us feel a little stressed, a little tired, a little worn out, but we're doing this anyway because, I don't know, just because we love this stuff, don't we? We're passionate about this
可是
stuff.
新西兰太无聊了，要找一点事情做。
And also that, yes, New Zealand can be a little boring sometimes. Depends who you talk to, but yes. Both me and Cherry just came from Shanghai, so the contrast is pretty big. The difference is pretty big. Anyway, let's get this started. Let's ask some difficult questions for Cherry. This is a question that a lot of people ask me in China, and it was mostly people of the older generation, in particular taxi drivers. They like to ask me this question. So I'm just going to throw this question at Cherry. She doesn't have to answer it if she doesn't want to, but I'm just curious to see what she would say. Cherry, how much money do you make?
我等一下，我是要直接回答你这个问题，还是用我跟别人聊天的方式回答你这个问题？
Yeah, maybe I should specify. Like, let's assume for a second, just for a second, that I'm a stranger talking to a stranger. You know, we're not very good friends. This is the first time we have a conversation, and I'm asking you somewhere in the middle of the conversation. It's a happy conversation that we're having. I ask you, you know, how much money do you get paid? Maybe you told me that what your job is, and but you didn't tell me about the money part. So I ask you, how much money do you make with a straight face?
嗯哼，还行吧。情况好的时候吧，1万块，情况不好的时候几千块了。有时候这要看学校和公司的情况嘛，是不是？所以你说不好，对，差不多就是够用，我觉得够用。也挣不了很多钱，但是呢，也穷不到哪里去，正好够我自己用。
Okay, that sounds like an honest, completely honest answer. That is a. I mean, you don't have to tell us if this is true. That's true or not. I mean, Cherry could be lying. We don't know. She might be making like sound one, so one. Who knows? I don't know. I genuinely don't know, and I'm not gonna try to find out because that might be a little rude. So that question, though, for me, it was very difficult for me to answer that question. I struggle every single time, and I try to change the topic. I try to get around the question, avoid the question. So for you, this question is fine. Like you have no problems answering this question with a stranger.
对啊，就是你不用告诉他具体的数字，你就给他一个范围就好了。你就说不好，你给他一个范围，让他自己猜。他要是再问的话，你就说不确定，看情况就好了。
And so Cherry's saying you can give him like a ballpark figure. You can give him like a scale from maybe 5,000 renminbi to 10,000 renminbi, and then let them figure it out. That's a nice way to avoid having to give them a specific number. Is what Cherry's saying, and I like that. Yeah, I like that. And has anybody because you're in New Zealand at the moment, has anybody in New Zealand asked you how much money you get?
No，在这边好像从来没有人问过我的工资问题。对于他们来说，可能他们会问我对以后的打算，对未来的打算，会问我就是家里的情况怎么样，但是不会问我挣了多少钱。所以我没有在这边，我没有这方面的烦恼，而且他们也会就是阻止别人，比如说有时候学生问我的时候，他们会阻止别人，他们会说，哎，这个问题不太好，所以就是说不可以在就是学校里面问这样的问题。
Okay, so while we're talking, this I can bring up the second question now, which is kind of related to this. What's more important in your opinion, Cherry? And I try to think like it. Use your Chinese brain to answer this question. Try not to use your English brain if that's possible. What is more important, the job or the money?
哇，对我来说，哎，这个问题我经常考虑，就是到底是工作重要还是工资重要？对我来说的话，因为现在我还年轻，所以我觉得工作更重要。如果我每天都做一个我不开心的工作，但是钱很多的话，那我可能每天有8个小时我都是不开心的，呃，心情，那我觉得没有那么好，所以我觉得工作对我来说更重要。你要找一个喜欢的工作，可能工资没有那么多，但是因为我还可以做兼职，所以我没有那么担心。
If people ask you like what your job is in China, are you happy to tell them that you're working as a maybe Chinese teacher? You know, what kind of responses do you get from people? Like, what is the general perception of Chinese teachers in China? If you or even if you work at home as like a private Chinese teacher teaching foreigners, what is the perception? What is the image of Chinese teachers or an online Chinese teacher in China? Do you know what I mean? Do you understand?
我听得懂，我听得懂。你的意思就是说，对，我在介绍，就是别人在问我工作是什么的时候，我会说我是一个中文老师。但是在国内，就是很多人他们搞不清楚语文老师跟中文老师。语文老师是教中国的小孩子中文，中文老师是教外国人中文，所以你还要解释一下，中文老师我的学生都是来自其他国家的。然后我跟你说，他们就是大部分人，你在告诉他们你是中文老师以后，90%的人会有一个第二个问题，那你有没有找一个外国男朋友？我说不是吧，我做中文老师不是为了找男朋友的，你为什么不问我一些关于就是我的工作打算、我的工作计划，甚至你可以问我的工资？为什么第二个问题一定是你有没有找一个中国男朋友这样的问题？所以我遇到90%的人，第二个问题一定会问我这个。
All right, I like this because this can bring us to the third question with a beautiful segue here. This is tricky. You don't have to answer this question, by the way. You can tell me to gun or whatever for this question. If you don't know, like I think this word like can I say that? It's not too rude. Okay. Gun is like a very direct way to tell someone to go away, right?
Yes, go away.
Okay, I don't want to say any bad English words, but I feel like that is like bordering on bad. Anyway, sorry. This next question is a very direct question. I feel like this is something that's okay to ask in a Western country, English speaking country. Are you married, Cherry?
你结婚了吗？是不是？或者是你找男朋友了吗？你哪个问题？你是问我你找男朋友了吗？还是你结婚了吗？
I guess they're different, aren't they? I'm gonna go.
有没有对象？
Well, I feel like if someone's trying to be nice to you, they would say, "Do you have a boyfriend?" But if they're more of a serious person, they might ask you, "Are you married?" I'm gonna go, "Are you married?"
我当然没结婚啊，我还年轻，结什么婚？我要好好的享受我的人生。为什么这么早就要结婚？是不是单身不爽吗？对，但是很有意思，你知道吗？就是 在中国，就是问我这两个问题的人不一样。一般比较老一点的人，他们会问我你结婚了没？然后一般比如说年轻的，跟我差不多年龄的人，特别是男生，他们就会问我你找对象了没？所以其实
嗯
是两种人。老一点的人他关心你有没有结婚，你要是没结婚，他们会给你介绍一个男朋友。年轻的人会问你有没有结婚，你要是没结婚，年轻的人会问你有没有男朋友，你要是没有男朋友，他们可能想，哎，我可能可以跟他出去约会一下。所以不一样的人有不一样的目标，有不一样的目的。
Do people ask this question a lot? Is it a common question for a conversation between two strangers?
我觉得如果是你跟年龄大一点的人，他们会用你有没有结婚来就是开始一个对话。如果是跟年轻一点的人的话，可能你跟他们见第二次面或者第三次面的时候，他们才会问你这个问题：你有没有对象？你结婚了没？所以，对，老一点的人，他们可能没有什么话题跟你聊，只能跟你聊结婚的话题。
Yeah, I think what I'm learning, or what I learned in China, is that when you talk to the older generation folk in China, anybody over sort of the age of like 50, just be prepared for like any kind of question, right? And forget it. Like they'll hit you with all kinds of things, and with a straight face, because for them, this is quite normal, and these are very kind, friendly people, so there's nothing against them. Let me give you another question here. Here's another difficult one. Who controls the money in a marriage?
哇，这好难啊！这肯定是要看不一样的情况。有的家庭是老婆管钱，有的家庭是老公管钱，就不一样啊。我觉得这个是50%，50%。很多人说，哎呀，在中国都是男人管钱，没有的。其实，你像我家都是我妈妈管钱，但是在我哥哥家就是我的嫂子管钱，就是不一样的情况。所以这个。对。但是如果你问我啊，因为我没结婚，所以我不好说这个话题吧，我回答不了这个话题。
Okay, I ask you this just because there was a guy that I met in China, and he told me that he was having difficulties because his relationship was a little sour with his wife. In other words, not so good, not a good relationship. And but she had all the money. The house was under her name. I think he had a car, but she also had a car. But I think the credit card that they have belonged to her, and his pay would go into whatever her bank account or something. And so she was like the custodian. She was the bank, basically. She also worked as well. So, this guy was in a tricky spot. And from my understanding, in maybe the history in China, sometime in the history, I don't know, but I'll just say in maybe more traditional times, I thought it was the woman that controlled the money, or maybe this is just maybe it's not as true as I thought it was or is.
我觉得可能你在网上看那些视频的时候，都会说，哎，家里面老婆管钱比较好，怎么样？就女人，因为女人比较理性，女人也不爱玩儿。但其实真的情况就是看每个人的性格。比如说，我对钱我不太懂钱，那如果我有一个男朋友，他管钱比较好的话，那我也可以给他管，就是没有说一定要女人管钱，或者一定要男人管钱。
Okay, I want to ask a kind of more light-hearted question, something more fun, because money is like, oh, sometimes when you start thinking too much about it, it's kind of a bit negative, a bit depressing, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, something a bit more friendly, family friendly. Big or small city in China? So, which would you choose, to live in a big city, or live in a kind of medium-sized city, or even a small city, or like I don't know, maybe your hometown? Which would you choose? Because this seems to be a big question that a lot of Chinese people have to ask themselves. I mean, it's difficult to find a job, obviously, but it's much more complicated in China choosing where to live. So that's my question: big or small city?
嗯哼，就我现在的情况来说，我更愿意住在小城市里面，因为我之前也住在大城市里面，然后在大城市工作过，所以我感觉对于我来说，因为我的工作我现在可以远程工作，我可以在家工作，我不用去大城市，我还可以就是赚到一样的钱。那为什么我不选一个小的城市？这样我花的钱比较少，生活比较轻松，然后自己在家工作会比较好。所以，呃，就我个人而言的话，我会想选择小的城市。我还想过去村子里面，去农村租一个小房子，只要有 WiFi 就可以了。
Ah, that's interesting. So, I mean, what about, I mean, Cherry's saying that it seems like you could choose anything really, right? But at the end, she's saying she could also live like in the sticks in the countryside, as long as there's Wi-Fi. That's it. Yeah, yeah, Wi-Fi is up there for like it's become a kind of necessity now, hasn't it? It's not really the internet. It's like it's Wi-Fi, man. Um, Now I was gonna, yeah. What is the general consensus? So, what that means is in China, if I'm living there, what are most people like, especially young people, what are they thinking about doing? Because it seems like almost every, well, I won't say every, but a lot of young people that I've talked to recently, they talk about going to some of these big cities. The Shanghai, the Beijing, even I want to add like Hangzhou and Chengdu in there as well,
Mm-hmm.
and also maybe Chongqing and Shenzhen, Guangzhou, um, I wonder if there's anything else we can add as like the big cities that people maybe even like Nanjing,
南
uh,
京。
and so what are most people doing? Like what do you think is happening at the moment? I understand there's a push in China to get people into cities, but there's also the choice between big, medium, small cities as well, or countryside. So what do you think like the majority of people or young people are sort of doing at the moment?
我觉得大部分可能刚刚从学校毕业的学生，他们更愿意选择去大的城市，因为大的城市，第一个他们可以学到很多东西，第二个他们有很多机会，他们可以选择那些机会，他们可以选择自己想过的生活，而且就是说，我们看的电视剧啊，看的抖音啊，这些短视频都发生在大城市，所以会让人想要住在大城市。但是，你像我或者是其他比我大一点的人，我们在大城市生活了一段时间以后，我们会觉得更想回到小的城市去。虽然说在小的城市机会没有那么多，工资也没有那么多，但是压力其实也没有那么多。所以说，就是我觉得人就是不同年龄的人，他们的选择是不一样的。就是我刚刚毕业的时候，我也只想去北京，我也只想去上海，我不想回我的老家，因为没什么机会。你要回老家的话，只能去比如说学校做老师，没有那么多不一样的机会给你选择。但是你现在有了更多的经验以后，你知道自己应该去选择怎么样的路，那你再回你的家乡，你会更自信一点。
Yeah, maybe I can also say something here, like before I ask you the final question, which was supposed to, I asked you the wrong question, by the way. This question is not actually that, it's not a super fun question. So I asked you the wrong one, sorry. But I lived in a small city, I lived in a big city, I lived in a medium city. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
two medium cities, one small city, and two big cities.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry if that's confusing. Basically, Beijing and Shanghai, the big cities. Beijing was like a just chaos for me.
嗯哼，很混
Shanghai,
乱。
yeah, and it's because that was my first year in China, though. I'm just lost like a puppy dog.
嗯
And Shanghai was at the end. So Shanghai, I tried to avoid going to Shanghai. I tried to avoid big cities because I
嗯
thought, I'm just going to end up um, not getting the full China experience if I'm in a big city. But actually, when I was there, I thought, wow, this is actually more of what I wanted. And when I was in the small and the medium cities, in the small city, I always felt like I wanted more. Like I just couldn't get. I couldn't get comfortable places that I could go and relax. It's difficult to find like friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a bit of a struggle really in the small city. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't really recommend going to a small city, but if you're going to spend several years in a country, I do think 1 year in a small city is very eye-opening experience. Then you get you get to see much more of the country, the culture. But the medium cities were also really good because you get that more of a full-blown China experience. And it's better if you're learning language as well. I think you're sort of a bit more forced to use the language. But, you know, I have to say, when I was in Shanghai, Shanghai's got everything. And yeah, I think the fear that I had trying to avoid Shanghai was actually kind of stupid, and that I should have spent more time there. But, you know, it's hard to say because I already spent so much time in China before that. So, is there anything you want to add, Cherry, before we go on to the last question?
没有了，没有了。你还有最后一个问题吗？
Yeah, yeah.
行。
So this was supposed to be the more fun question that I accidentally forgot to ask you. What's your favorite food
在哪里？在中国还是在新西兰呢
in the world?
？No，这个没办法说。我在不一样的地方有不一样最喜欢的食物啊。
That's why this is a difficult question for Chinese people.
这个太难了。
Okay, what about just Chinese food?
其实对于很多中国人来说，你要是问这个问题，我觉得最好的答案是妈妈做的菜是最好吃的菜。我觉得，因为我妈就是可以做北方的菜，也可以做南方的菜，可以做就是很久以前的菜，可以做很现代的菜，所以你有妈妈就够了，是不是？所以，但是这个问题我问过我的 homestay，我 homestay 说，在我们这里没有这种说法，每个人做的菜味道都一样。对。
You mean like, are you saying like? Sorry, can you say that again? I didn't quite understand.
我说就是如果你问中国人这个问题，大部分中国人会回答，家乡的菜，妈妈做的菜最好吃。但是我跟我的 homestay 聊这个问题的时候，我会说我很喜欢我妈妈做的菜。然后他们说，在新西兰我们不会这样说，因为每个人做的菜味道都一样，没有妈妈的菜，没有爸爸的菜，都是新西兰的菜。
Right. That makes more sense now, yeah. I can't say that my grandparents were not great cooks. There's a lot of average chefs, or like average, people are not amazing at cooking in New Zealand. I'll just say that. I mean, I think people could be better at cooking, but it's just easier we have a lot of like staple, simple things that we eat. Like one good example is a pie.
Pie.
P-I-E, a pie.
我的妈呀。
I won't say that this is not a Kiwi thing, a New Zealand thing. I think it might have come, I don't know where it's come from, but a lot of people just eat pies, or sandwiches, because it's just easy, quick, simple, cheap. And it's not saying that New Zealand people are lazy, because I don't think we are lazy. But some people will surprise you with their cooking skills, even though we don't really have a strong food culture of our own in New Zealand. Maori people might disagree with that. They might say, well, actually, there's a lot of things like Pacific Island people can do with food. But I think for a lot of because we came from colonized by the Brits, from the UK, so it's like asking what kind of food do they cook and like in the UK, and I think you get a similar answer to New Zealand. We like Indian food. We like curries. And we also do a lot of fast food. I can't answer this question. Why am I answering? You're supposed to be answering the question, not me.
其实我觉得挺好的。其实，在新西兰这个地方吃菜，你会发现这边的人更开放。你可以在一个地方吃到意大利菜、法国菜、德国菜、俄罗斯菜、美国菜、英国菜，你可以吃很多菜。它其实跟中国不一样。你在中国的话，一个地方我们可能只有那个地方的特色的菜，所以说 他们就是你说新西兰人。他们做饭不好吃，其实没有，只是说他们有太多的菜，他们要学太多的 skills，然后有时候他们只是记不住而已。
Are you saying, sorry, at the end there, New Zealand, my dad distracted me. My dad's outside doing gardening. um, at the end, you said it's difficult for Chinese people, no, or New Zealand people. Who were you talking about?
我在说新西兰人，我说就是很多人说，哎，新西兰人可能不懂做菜，其实不是说新西兰人不懂做菜，只是说他们做菜有很多选择，所以说他们可能记不住那些 recipe，他们可能记不住做菜的步骤，因为他们有太多太多的菜可以选择。对，
Yeah, I think let's leave the food topic for another video. Like, I think we should make like a series of videos just about food because you can, and because I know that I can get Chinese people talking about that topic, because that is the topic for China: food. That's it. If you want to make a friend in China, take them out for lunch,
可
cook
以，
something for them, yeah, or just talk about food with them. Get interested in food, and my God, you will learn Chinese so fast, right? If you start getting interested in Chinese food. Anyway, I think these are all the questions I had for you, Cherry.
好，
So
我也没有问题。
you have survived. You have survived the difficult questions. Congratulations. Well done.
OK，谢谢你啊，这些就是 tricky 一点的回答嘛，你聪明一点都能回答出来啦。
Well, okay. Which question do you feel like is kind of the most difficult question that I asked?
可能就是工资问题吧，关于钱的问题。对，你要想一想怎么回答。
Right. Yep. And I agree. Yes, the money question is probably the most difficult question. That and the "Are you married?" question, because people are always probing around for that one. Anyway, good job. Well done. Thank you for all these beautiful answers. Lots of great Chinese. Once again, you're always a pleasure talking with you, Cherry.
好的，好的，下次见呐，下次再聊。
Thanks.